Today, I found some scary stories from Reddit I'd like to share with you guys. I hope you enjoy the listening and enjoy the stories. My channel currently has 59 subscribers, and my goal is to reach 100 by the end of 2026. So I'd appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. You don't even have to hit the bell. Every sub counts, but with that out the way, I hope you enjoy. I found a tape of a woman being killed. I was at my grandmother's house helping my grandmother move furniture around. She became my mother figure after the death of my mother when I was a young child, and I've been staying with her ever since my car accident. My grandmother helped nurse me back in the house, so I made an effort to alleviate her of any and all physical tasks. I felt it was the least I could do. It was in the attic when I accidentally knocked over a box. The box was filled with VHS tapes, with the furthest dating back to 1990. All that was written on them was the year. There was a TV in the attic as well because we used the attic as more like a functioning room than a storage space. So I decided to play the oldest tape. I expected to see happy memories, home videos, scenery, anything other than this. The video starts with whoever is holding the camera filming a woman sitting alone at a small table at a coffee shop. She's reading. The camera was zoomed in on her hair glowing in the light, fixed. The tape then skips to a new setting in what looks like downtown Chicago somewhere. I can see the back of the same woman from before walking down the street, oblivious to the person trailing and filming behind her. The sky is now dark gray. I can see lights from passing cars glinting off her shiny boots. The camera is clambering and rubbing up against the jacket of the cameraman. He or she's not far from her, but is far enough away to show that he or she's not with her, clearly stalking her. The scene lasted maybe 5 minutes of the monotonous walking until it shifted to the woman, now bound and stowed away in her car. She was taped up, unable to speak. All I could hear was the sound of heavy rainfall accompanied by her screaming and crying. Her muffled panic broke my heart in two. My spine became frozen. I couldn't open my eyes any wider. Any moment the film could shift into something so much more grotesque, so morbid, so life-changing, and I could do nothing but watch in horror. I saw a black glove covered hand sprout from behind the camera, slammed the trunk door closed, trapping her inside. It's now clearly night. The next scene skips to the woman, now beaten and bloody while tied to a chair. The location looks like a warehouse somewhere. The only light coming from a single fluorescent bulb above the woman, illuminating pools of crimson red blood at her feet. The camera is steadily held, so much that it seemed to be propped up by a stand. I can hear the poor woman moaning in pain underneath the tape covering her mouth. I can also hear something shifting around on the concrete, like someone adjusting their stance. It seemed manic. I could hear clambering of metal, the tools being packed or unpacked from a bag. My stomach now fully turned. The stalker then walks into frame, showing only his back. His head was completely covered in a balaclava. He carried a blade in his right hand. My heart completely halted. The stalker held her drooping head, tilted her face upward, and began to slice her throat from the left ear all the way to the right. She squirmed and gargled in her desperate and useless attempt to survive. I had never seen so much blood in my life. The killer then takes off his mask and stares into the camera, flashing a toothy grin. The film then abruptly stops. I was held in place by my now shot nerves. My blood slowed into stillness, completely discoloring my blood into an almost corpse-like white. My grandmother was watching me. She shakingly tried to console me from across the room, struggling to form words through the river of tears streaming down her face. She said she didn't want me to ever be reminded of who I was before my accident. Emergency alert. Do not look outside your windows. Emergency alert. Warning, this is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. Citizens of the world, lock all doors, close all your blinds, do not go near any windows. Do not look outside. Do not leave your house. Stay in a room with no windows. Gather what supplies you can. Turn all the lights off. Do not open the door for anything. When I first heard it, it didn't even sound real. It sounded fake, like something in a horror movie, but it was an emergency. So I decided I probably should do what they tell me. I grabbed a flashlight, pillow, my phone, charger, food, and basic other stuff to keep me entertained while all this stuff happened. I had no idea what was going on, but once I got into my bathroom and got comfy, I texted my parents asking them if they actually got the alert. They also did. They said citizens of the world did they actually broadcast that to the world? I asked myself. So I texted an internet friend that lives across the world and they said they got it too. Same exact message, and to be honest, it's kind of scary. They tell you what to do, but not what's going on, and people are scared of that. 20 minutes later, emergency alert. This is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. Unknown creatures have been knocking on people's doors and have been killing people that open the door. There are 5 major hotspots: Washington, D.C., Tokyo, Toronto, Moscow, and London. They have been located all around, but it seems as if they're attacking those first. This is an invasion. Stay in your rooms. Do not open any doors. Do not look outside. They can kill you instantly with just a look. May God help us all. Emergency nuke sirens are going off. Tornado sirens are going off. What is going on? Is this a prank? How can an invasion be real? Are aliens real? How can I even comprehend that? I hear car alarms going off. I hear things being destroyed. They are here. They are killing. It sounds like a war zone out there, but without any guns. What can the government do? Just shoot them? But they would die looking at them. There's no possible way we could ever survive this. We are going to die. I text my parents, but no answer. I text my brother and sister, no answer. I start to panic now. What if my family is gone, and all I could do is listen to other people's families get murdered? The nuke sirens have started again, and they are very loud, shaking my whole apartment. I wonder what the other people in my building are thinking. Probably like me, this is it. This is the end of the world. Everyone on this planet will die. I hear a knock on my door. I don't answer it. I hear someone screaming for me to open it. I mean, it sounded human. Should I open it? No, that would be stupid. Emergency alert. This is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. The extraterrestrial are attacking every major city in the world. There are a lot of them. We have not found out what they want. Stay inside. Millions, if not billions, are dead. Stay inside. It's as if the government has given up for now. There is no way to fight. These messages are less helpful each time they come on. If billions are dying, I don't know how we can survive this. I mean, I have so far, but it doesn't sound like for long. I hear buildings being destroyed. I hear cars being destroyed. My building has been hit a few times. I'm hearing the world crumble before me. At this point, there's no reason to hope anymore. There's so many dying and there is so much chaos. They will get everyone. I would love to know what one of these things look like, but if I see them, I die. I hope someone takes a picture, and if we do survive, I want to see it. I want to see what's been killing us. But the end is nowhere near, and I don't even know how many people we have left. Should I just kill myself? Maybe I should die before any of them get me. I don't want to die by those things. Plus, what if I do survive and get survivor's guilt? There's just no way. Emergency alert. This is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. The extraterrestrial have left and left billions of people dead. If you're alive, please tap the button on your phone now. If on a radio, tune to 104 and state your name and city. We will update you in 20 minutes. There's no way I will want to live. That's what I was going to say, and yet somehow I'm actually alive. Do I want to die now? Well, no. But how many people are alive? What did these things want? Why did they attack us? There are too many questions to even ask right now. At this point, all we could do is try to figure out some numbers and restart society. How can a world like ours even recover from something like this? How long until society is normal again? Will humanity ever be the same? I don't know. What I do know is that I could have lost everything. I text my friends and family and come back with some numbers. Emergency alert. This is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. We have reported a little over 1 billion people accounted for. Not every country has the technology, so we will investigate those countries in the coming months. We do not understand what these creatures wanted, nor what they have taken. In the next month or two, we will be figuring out the next steps for humanity. May God help us all. Only 3 people I know survive: my sister, my uncle, my best friend. Everyone else is dead. I want to kill myself, but at the same time, humanity needs me. We need each other to continue human life. Only time will tell what to do next, if there is anything next. I found out my boyfriend was drugging me every night. Last month, I noticed that something is off with my boyfriend. He was being too nice recently, like cleaning up his dirty dishes and being attentive to my needs. I would have thought this was a good thing if only I haven't caught him waking up in the middle of the night and leaving the house. I tried waiting for him to come back, but I fell asleep after some time, and the next thing I knew, he was back in bed with me. That morning, it clicked on me, like I found all the pieces to the puzzle. That's why he was acting so nice, and recently I will admit that we haven't had some sex, and I thought he was just wasn't in the mood. Now I know why. He was having an affair. I was furious and heartbroken. I told my best friend Natalie all about it, and she was as heartbroken as me. She kept asking if I was sure about it. I mean, what other explanation could it be? He'll be gone the whole night and he'll be back in the morning. What did he do? Buy some milk? I said to her that I have a plan. I'm gonna wake up before he does, catch him red-handed. My best friend just nodded and said that was a good idea. That night, my boyfriend prepared a nice meal for me, something he hadn't before, and I was mildly surprised. I pretended not to know anything about his infidelity, so our conversation went normally. However, when we finally settled back in bed, I had fallen asleep almost instantaneously. My sleep was so good that I wasn't able to wake up at midnight. I was disappointed with myself. How could I have slept on it? What's weird was in the following nights that kept happening to me. I couldn't wake up in the middle of the night. I also tried staying up all night, but at some point I would fall asleep. That is very unusual since I have been a night shift employee before, and I don't have this kind of trouble of suddenly falling asleep. Sometimes I couldn't even remember what happened last night. My crazy brain thought maybe my boyfriend was drugging me, putting something to make me sleep through the night. That's the only possible explanation I could think of. But then I asked myself, how did he know about my plan? My heart sank as if the answer to my question. Natalie, my best friend, I couldn't believe it. Why would she betray me? Is she my boyfriend's lover? At this point, I was intoxicated with anger. I skipped dinner and only drank water from tap. I made sure that none of my boyfriend's drugs would reach me. My boyfriend was even persistent that I should eat or at least drink some milk. To me, that was confirmation that he was indeed drugging me. I was about to confront him about his infidelity right then, but then I felt a blunt force hit me in the back of my head and I was out. When I came to, I was tied up in bed and my boyfriend was watching me in the corner of our bedroom. He was biting his lips as pale as a sheet. What is this? I asked him. His eyes lit up when he saw me awake, and then he ran to our living room and called for someone. My heart sank as I saw who it was. It was Natalie. I yelled immediately after seeing her. It was you. How fucking dare you? I shouted at her. Natalie asked me to calm down. It's not what you think, she kept repeating. I'm gonna kill both of you when I get out of here. I kept trying to free myself, but to no avail. They used some of the thickest rope I've seen. Babe, listen to me, my boyfriend said. I'm not cheating on you. Certainly, Natalie and I have no romantic relationship. I get out of bed every night because I need to stay safe. Stay safe? I asked. Stay safe from what? From you, he answered. What? Jace, it's near 3. We should get out of here, Natalie whispered. My boyfriend then took took out a paint bucket and painted my hands and legs with red paint. I squirmed and yelled as he did in a hurry. All the while I was thinking, who is this person? Is this really my boyfriend? How could he do this to me? As if he could hear my thoughts, he kissed my forehead and said, "You'll understand everything tomorrow, I promise." Before I could reply, he and Natalie ran away, and I was all alone in our bedroom. I kept screaming for help, but I knew it was pointless. My mind was racing as fast as my heartbeat. My lungs felt like it was shrinking as I breathed for air. No, no, no. How could they do this to me? Why are they doing this? I kept trying to free myself, but I got exhausted at some point and lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was still in bed, but I noticed the ropes that bound me from last night were now roughly severed, and my wrist burned like hell. As I looked around the room, I understood Jace. The floors, the walls, and the ceiling as well were full of red handprints. My handprints. My girlfriend and I get tortured for a living. Something went seriously wrong during her last session. Now she's different. I've always had a bit of a passion for odd jobs. When I was a teenager, I discovered Craigslist, and everything kind of just snowballed from there. You wouldn't believe the kinds of things you can find on the internet. The kind of jobs you can secure without having to do any paperwork. Most of the time, the people hiring either don't want to be traceable by the government, or they're just far too desperate at that point and add any additional hoops to jump through. That's how I met Chelsea. It was actually a really funny story, perfect for telling at parties. It would have been perfect for our wedding too, and for telling our kids. It would have been, at least. We met because we had been hired to come to this birthday party, a kid turning 11. Neither of us fully knew what the job entailed when we agreed, which might have been a sign that we shouldn't have, but we were both informed we'd be paid handsomely, and that all that neither needed us to hear. When we got there, Frank, a middle-aged guy with salt and pepper beard who smelled strongly of patchouli and marinara sauce, informed us we were there to get in a huge screaming match around in the middle of the party. We were playing a couple a few houses down who were really on the fritz, I guess. We weren't told why, just what to do. I'm still not sure why he wanted us to do that. I was hesitant. I wasn't much of an actor, but Chelsea, she threw herself into the role wholeheartedly. A couple of hours later, we were sitting on the curb a block away, and she was holding a bag of frozen carrots against my swollen cheekbone, and I was nursing a blunt, wincing at my chocolate milk stuck to my clothes. We compared stories of our strangest jobs, our craziest experiences, the worst thing we'd ever done to make a couple bucks. We both agreed that anything below a felony was fair game, but we gravitated towards weird yet legal and harmless tasks. She had a passion for all of it I'd never seen in anyone I'd ever met. She was really doing it for experiences, not the money. She was a thrill seeker. I fell in love with her quickly, like getting hit over the head with a blunt object. It was aggressive and immediate. A couple of months later, we got a place together, and the rest was history. We fell into a nice domestic routine. She made me coffee in the morning and kissed my forehead when I was walked into the kitchen. We took turns cooking dinner and was doing the dishes. And we watched hours of reality television slop on her sofa that was just big enough for two. We talked about the future. We talked about a dog, 2 kids, and a yard. It all just fell into place. Friends liked me. My friends liked her. Our families were the same. My mother became a little too obsessed with having a grandchild, and I had to beg her to stop asking Chelsea about her cycle. But none of them knew about our secret life, the jobs we did together. When everyone went home, it was just for us. It was exciting. This secret hobby that we shared. The first call from OEM came on a quiet Friday. Chelsea was at her job as a barista, and I was at home getting some cleaning done before having lunch with my parents, like an old person. I was used to getting calls that didn't have any identification concerning all my side jobs, so I didn't bat an eye to the no caller ID on my screen. What was different, however, was the automated message that played as soon as I picked up the call. This call may be recorded for quality assurance and training purposes. Please state your first and last name and date of birth. I frowned, tossing the rag I've been cleaning the stove with onto the kitchen counter. Julian Rains, May 14th, 1999. There was a silence, then a beep. Then a man spoke, non-automated this time. Hello, Mr. Rains. I've been informed you might be looking for a job. When Chelsea got home, I was waiting for her on the couch. She came up behind me, cut my face in her hands, and kissed the top of my head. Hey babe, I said, trying to keep the excitement out of my voice. How was work? Exhausting. She slumped over the back of the couch, smushing the cushions. But I got this crazy voicemail. The facility was in what looked from outside like a dilapidated warehouse. The man who picked us up in a long black car was very quiet, answering our questions in single-word responses and keeping his eyes on the road. Chelsea and I were giving each other small glances and squeezing each other's hand the entire way there. A man greeted us at the car door, opening it for us with a smile. He was tall and thin, and he wore a crisp suit with his dark hair slicked back. Not a strand askew. Mr. and Mrs. Rain, I presume? Chelsea looked down shyly. I was surprised. She was never shy, but this situation definitely felt more professional than what we were used to. We aren't married. Oh, I'm sorry. The man tapped his forehead with the palm of his hand, good-naturedly. I'm so sorry, Miss Sutherland. Miss Sutherland, of course. He reached out to shake her hand, and then mine, eager. My name is Malcolm Kessler. You can just call me Kessler. Would you like to know what you're doing here? We let Kessler lead us into the building. On the inside, it looked far less rundown. We were greeted with long white hallways and bustling professionals holding coffees and clipboards wearing matching white lab coats. Is this like a hospital? Chelsea asked, gathering around in awe. I took her hand again and gave it a squeeze. No, not a hospital, although there are medical professionals here and we do certainly have access to those kinds of tools. He offered us a sly grin. We have entered a room with a metal table and 4 chains and not much else. A woman with her hair tied in a bun came in, placed a stack of papers on the table, and scurried away. Kessler gestured for us to take a seat. This, he said slowly, looking from me to Chelsea and back again. This is OEM. Do you know what that stands for? He waited for us to shake our heads before I continued. This is the Office of Enhanced Methods. I blinked at him, the white fluorescent lights making my eyes burn. What does that mean? I'm glad you asked. Kessler leaned back in his chair, folding his hands in his lap. Essentially, here at OEM, we test torture methods. See what works, see what doesn't. See what we need to change or scale back on, you know? I could feel Chelsea looking at me. I looked back. I couldn't quite read her expression, but somehow I could still get the gist. Is this a government project? She asked, her eyes still locked on mine and her brows furrowing. Kessler chuckled. You could say that. So why do you need us? I asked, even though I felt I might know the answer. Finally, looking away from girlfriend and back at the man in front of us. Kessler sighed, leaning forward again, resting his elbows on the table. He had quite a sharp face, but it managed to feel charming and welcoming, purely from his expression. I wondered if he'd practiced that. I'll level with you, he said, quieter than before. We need volunteers. But finding volunteers for something like this is difficult. That's why we're looking for people like you. People who are interested in doing odd jobs like this one. And we're offering a large amount for compensation. I pressed my lips together, searching his face for any sign of deception or exaggeration. I found none. I glanced back at Chelsea, who was looking at a stack of paperwork. How much compensation? I asked, finally. When it became clear that no one else was going to say it, I expected Kessler to laugh. He didn't. Are you two looking to get married? I felt the room heat up. Truthfully, I'd bought a ring a month ago. I was just waiting for the right time. And at a time we could probably plan for a wedding without the stress of becoming bankrupt for it. Yeah, I mean, eventually. Have you seen how much those venues cost these days? Kessler raised his eyebrows sympathetically, leaning even closer to us. Not to mention a honeymoon. Are you looking to have kids, start a family? send those kids to college, grow old, and retire. The man actually reached out, actually took my hand in one of his and Chelsea's in his other. I felt like the air in the room was being sucked out of it. I'm gonna be honest with you, too. I'm not gonna mince words. It's tough out there right now. I can make it so you never have to worry about money again. He left us in the room to let us talk alone, and I could have sworn I heard the lock click behind him. But to be fair, I was feeling pretty jumpy by that point. Chelsea and I sat in front of the room in silence. "This is a lot," she muttered, running her fingers through her hair. "This place is crazy." I reached over to flip through the paperwork, chewing on my bottom lip. I saw words like non-disclosure agreement, liability, medical care. I put the paperwork back down and took her hand again. "It's a lot of money. It seems serious. Would we be considered like war criminals if we took part in this?" She laughed, but I could tell she was anxious. I shrugged slowly. She rubbed at her face, and with her free hand, nervous habit of hers, I reached over and tucked some hair behind her ear. Smiling, she smiled back apprehensively. There was something neither of us were saying, something neither of us wanted to point out. How bad was the job to offer that amount of compensation? Still, there was a buzz between us. This was what we did. We signed up for strange things for the experiences. Chelsea lived for things like this. I think I knew the second we got there that she would end up wanting to do it. When Kessler came back, I stood up, pushing my chair back and wiping my sweaty hands on my jeans. "So, what kind of torture are we talking about?" His smile was wide. "I can show you if you'd like," he explained as he led us back down the hall, guiding us into different rooms that was essentially the exact same as the one that we had just been in, but with more cameras mounted on the walls from different chairs. I winced a little when I saw the wrist and ankle restraints attached to the sterile metal frame. "Everything we do here stays within these walls," he told us, gesturing for us to take a seat. Chelsea and I shared a look, then obeyed. Communication-wise, but also physically. "We will do nothing to permanently damage you. We have medical staff on site for any treatment." As if on cue, a man in one of the lab coats bustled into the room. Pushing a cart, he began strapping down our wrists, leaving our legs unrestrained. "Everything is voluntary," Kessler continued. "Nothing will happen to you without your explicit consent, although we may need to withhold some details in order to get the most accurate read on your reactions. You can leave or discontinue your contracts at any time." The man in the lab coat started putting on medical gloves. I swallowed hard. "What is he going to do?" Kessler nodded at the man, who procured a syringe from his cart, examining the needle carefully and then picking up a little glass bottle to draw from. "This is just, let's call it a sample. This is something we've been working on for a while. It's already been tested many times with a high success rate." I wondered what a high success rate in this context was. A large sum of pain, the right amount of screaming? Usually we'd probably hook you up to various brainwave sensors, but we'll start light today. The doctor, was he a doctor? Approached Chelsea, who squirmed anxiously. He wiped her arm with an alcohol swab and began feeling around for a good vein. I watched her, trying to look encouraging when her eyes met mine. "This is a sort of liquid electrocution per se." Before either of us could reply to that, the doctor was inserting the needle into Chelsea's arm and pushing down on the plunger. I watched her body seize up, her eyes going wide and glassy. She was perfectly still for a moment, save for her mouth falling open and her entire face going slack. And then she began to twitch and spasm, her limbs jerking with no control. Then she screamed, a gurgling, horrifying sound, and I was struck with panic. I was so distracted I barely felt the needle sliding to my own arm, and then it felt like I was being set on fire. We didn't go back to the place for a couple of months. Kessler told us to take our time, to think about it, as he handed us a tall stack of dollar bills. The feeling of the money almost bulging out of my pocket almost made up for the pain. He had told the truth. It didn't last. It felt like the effects of the injection lasted an hour. but we were told it had only been a few minutes before it wore off. I expected to be weak leaving the facility and prepared myself to be embarrassed to handle it worse than my girlfriend did. But the feeling faded fast. In fact, I almost felt more alive. We were given a brief interview where a younger man scribbled extensive notes, and then we were free to go. The first thing Chelsea said to me when we got outside was, "What a rush." Still, we waited a while. It felt like a next step in our object hobby was to make this a regular thing. Like something a bit depraved. It was dystopian. It was strange and scary. Even though the sensation was gone, I can vividly remember what the injection had done to me, how it had torn through my veins, how I wondered if I was dying. And that was supposed to be just a sample. But eventually, neither of us could stay away. The money was good, beyond good. At first, we kept it a secret from each other, as if we were doing something bad. She would head off to work, and I would drive to the warehouse. They would inject me, feed me things that made me sick, toss me around, even beat me. And then I would drive home, still reeling and sore. Chelsea started acting strange, staying up after I went to bed, but I couldn't exactly call her out on it because I was being strange too. Neither of us wanted to put any pressure on the other, I guess. And I don't think either of us liked the idea of the other getting tortured. It was all but confirmed in my mind that we were both doing the same thing when I caught her coming through the front door at almost 3 a.m., rubbing at her temple as if she had a horrible migraine. I was sitting on the couch reading a book, waiting for her. She stopped cold, her eyes going wide. I couldn't help but chuckle. "Cheating on me?" I asked. She laughed, plopping down next to me on the couch. "Not exactly." I pulled her to me, and she rested her head on my shoulder. "Let's just do it together, okay? From now, let's just do it together." I waited for an answer, but after a minute, all I got was a snore. We went together the next weekend. Kessler greeted us, patted us each on our back cheerfully. "Great to see you two together again. The work you both have been doing here is just fantastic." Chelsea and I eyed each other, and she gave me a little punch in the arm. I grinned at her. "I have something different for you two today, now that you're here together, if you're up for it." My smile faded, twisting into a mild concern. I licked my lips. "Different how?" He waved me off, guiding us into one of those rooms. The same chairs greeted us, with their cuffs and restraints. A doctor was already inside, toying with some kind of strap. It looked like a headband. "We've been trying something more psychological than you're used to." I stopped in my tracks. Kessler and Chelsea both turned to face me, their eyebrows raising and saying, "Psychological torture?" I was getting vivid images in my head. All the psychological horror movies I've ever seen rushing back to me. Physical pain was one thing, but sanity was delicate, something that shouldn't be played with. Kessler approached me, placing his hand on each of my shoulders and offered me a reassuring smile. "Think about it, Mr. Rains," he said, his voice kind. "It will be a brief test. It will only last about 30 seconds. Like I said, nothing will leave this facility, and we will have professionals to assess your mental state directly afterwards. 30 seconds is enough money to buy a used car." I worried my lips together. The fear I'd been in the past crept back in. If it wasn't dangerous, why would it be worth so much? Worth more than we'd be paid for anything before. "Come on, Jules," Chelsea smiled at me from behind him. She didn't look afraid, and it soothed me a little. "We'll do it together." I nodded reluctantly, almost as if my chin raised to do so. The doctor was slipping the headband on, 2 metal plates digging into my forehead. I felt my muscles tense up. We took our seats, and Chelsea reached over to grab my hand. They didn't strap us down this time, which I hardly thought about until it was too late. The doctor put Chelsea's headband on too, and she made a face at me, which made me bite back a laugh. "Ready?" Kessler asked, as he nodded at the doctor, who pressed something on what looked like a keyboard, and Julie started to scream. The second he touched the thing, she was screaming. It wasn't like any scream I had ever heard before. Not like the one from the first time we'd been here. Not like in any horror movie. Certainly never in real life. I felt like my eardrums were bursting, and only grew louder and more shrill. It was desperate. It was beyond torture, beyond pain, beyond anything a human could possibly endure. I imagined hell. I imagined that souls being dragged to damnation might sound something like that scream. I was even religious. She squeezed my hand. I felt my bones cracking. Chelsea! Chelsea! I rocketed out my seat, trying to shake her, trying to ignore the searing pain. She wouldn't let go of my hand. Couldn't. Her eyes were wide open and dead, looking right at me, but not seeing anything. Still, tears streamed from them, more tears than I'd ever seen anyone cry. I whipped back around. The doctor was typing urgently on his computer and Kessler was staring, his hands out and his eyes moving rapidly back and forth like he was in shock. Jesus Christ, I screamed. Do something. Fucking do something. Chelsea was gasping now, a ragged sound that bounced around in my head, and it felt like I could hear nothing but that horrible wet gasp. Just dead air, her throat clawing for a breath, drool seeping from her mouth and down her chin. Finally, I ripped the headband off her. Instantly, she went slack, letting go of my hand. The room went silent for a moment, then Kessler muttered something to other man, and the doctor rushed out of the door. Chelsea, baby, are you okay? I kneeled in front of her, rubbing her knee. She wouldn't look at me, wouldn't move. For a second, I wondered if she was dead. Please answer me. Right when I was about to check her pulse, her head turned. She wasn't screaming anymore, but her eyes were just about as dead as they had been before when they met mine. They didn't even look like her eyes anymore. She opened her mouth, and out it came a horrible whispery sound like she'd forgotten how to use her tongue. I leaned in closer, trying to smile at her weakly. What is it, honey? Please, she gasped. No more. I felt hot. I felt like I had a horrible fever. I reached up, touched her wet face. It's over, baby. No more. It's over. She stared at me, if you could call it that. She wasn't in her body anymore. This was something else. She twitched. Just kill me. I turned back to look at Kessler. He looked just as shocked as I did, anxiously adjusting his tie. For a long moment, we met eyes. I knew what he was thinking. Something had gone horribly, unbelievably wrong here, and he didn't know how to fix it. Next few hours were a horrible blur. I remember doctors rushing around, wheeling Chelsea out of the room despite my pleas to know where they were going, to let me go with them. I sat alone in the cold, sterile room, her scream echoing around in my head. I cried, begged the cameras in the corners of the room. I banged my head against the table. Someone came in and bandaged up my broken hand, but no one would tell me anything. It felt like days that I was in there. Honestly, it could have been. When the door finally opened again and Kessler stepped through, couldn't even feel relieved. I just felt broken. Where is she? I croaked, raising my head. Is she okay? He said nothing, just sat down in front of me. He was back to business. The horrified expression I had seen him have completely wiped away, although I could have sworn his face was a little pale. He took an envelope right out of his pocket and placed it on the metal between us. Miss Sutherland is right outside. She's unharmed and feeling fine. We choked out a sob. I couldn't believe it. I hid my face in my hands. Kessler cleared his throat and continued. You are going to take this envelope. Inside is a check for $700,000. One of the drivers is going to take you to the emergency room, where you will have your hand properly treated. Any further medical bills will be completely covered by us. We're to do this and then go home and never return here. You understand? I looked up at it, nodded. I was angry, wanted to yell, demand answers, threatened to sue, but I was far too exhausted for any of that. I just wanted to see Chelsea. I just wanted to go home. Kessler nodded, his mouth pressed into a thin line. We at OEM are terribly ashamed for what took place today. Please accept our deepest condolences. Something about the rubbed me the wrong way, made my skin prickle, but my mind was numb. I just nodded again, taking an envelope and shoving it into my pocket. Chelsea was just outside, like he said, and she smiled when she saw me. I gather her in my arms and squeeze, breathing in the scent of her hair, kissing the side of her neck. Thank God you're okay. Hey, don't cry. She pulled back, kissing my cheek and wiping away my tears. I'm more than okay, baby. What a rush. A laugh burst out of me like an uncontrollable cough. You're a psychopath. You like it. As promised, we were taken to the hospital where I was put in a cast. My hand was broken in 3 different places, and Chelsea sat with me while they examined it, and a horrible, anxious feeling crept over me. When I looked at her, all she did was smile. I couldn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, white spots drifting across my vision, my hand throbbing dully on my chest. Chelsea's back pressed against the side of my arm was the only thing that made me feel any calmer. I turned to look at the back of her head, chewing on my lip. The room felt too quiet, too dark after spending so long in the bright, sterile room. I was restless. Chelsea? I whispered, are you awake? She said nothing. She wasn't snoring, but I swore I could hear her heart beating. Ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk. I sighed, what do you feel? When was it happening? I knew she wouldn't respond, but I asked anyway. I needed to talk, even if it was just to myself. Ka-thunk, ka-thunk. I felt her shift a little, her back moving with each of her breaths. Her heartbeat began to speed up. Only then did I begin to wonder why I could hear it all, and so loud. I sat up a little, leaning on my elbows. I stroked her hair. Hey baby, are you okay? No answer. Ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk. Suddenly I had that feeling. I had a feeling children get at night when they become positive there's something in the closet just outside the bedroom door. Someone they don't know. Panic raced through me. Whether it was Russia or not, I had to see her face. I had to be sure she was alive, and she was herself, and she was real. I reached over, took her arm, pulling her towards me. Chelsea's eyes were wide open, bloodshot, and my heart jumped into my throat when I realized it hadn't been a heartbeat that I'd been hearing. It had been her gasping for air, her throat closing, opening again rapidly, swallowing it heavily, dryly, and heaving dryly in the dark like an animal about to throw up. Ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk. I shook her awake, sitting straight up in the bed. She gasped, blinking at me almost sleepily, rubbing at her eyes. Jillian? Her voice was raspy, tired and dry, but otherwise normal. I flickered on the bedside lamp, breathing hard. Babe, what's wrong? I shook my head. I couldn't look at her, couldn't breathe. I felt her wrap her arms around me, shushing me gently and stroking her hair. You were, shh. It's okay. It's okay now, Jules. It's okay. Just a bad dream. But it wasn't a dream. I knew it wasn't. After that, my girlfriend was different. She wasn't herself. I tried to go back to normal. She certainly tried to. She wanted to work like before, saw her friends, watched television with me on her couch. But it didn't feel like she was really there anymore. She didn't sleep much at all, and when she did, it was strange and restless. I more than once caught her sleeping with her eyes wide open, just like the first night. Once I asked her what her dreams had been like recently, she hesitated before telling me. You know how when meat is fresh and the muscles are still alive, so they move and squirm even though the animal's dead? She smiled and ruffled my hair. That's what the backs of my eyelids look like. The worst part of how normal she pretended to be, so fine she told me she felt. And she kissed me like always, and how she tried to joke, but it never quite came out right. I reached my limit one night, a month later when I got home and was having a drink with some friends. The house was completely dark, completely silent, completely still. The second I opened the door, I felt it, the unexplainable terror, like there was a man in the closet. It didn't feel right in there. Nothing felt like it was in the right place, even though I knew it must have been. Everything just felt wrong. Chelsea, I called up quietly, shrugging off my jacket. Wet from the rain, are you awake, honey? No answer. I went to go upstairs. When I saw her, she was down on her way. Her head was half poking out around the corner, only her eyes showing in darkness, wide open, staring at me, but not seeing me. She started to scream. It was even worse to not be able to see her mouth. She screamed in short bursts like a panting dog, the blood-curdling sound jolting out of her. Fight or flight kicked in. I turned around and walked right back out the door, closing it behind me. I walked until I was across the street and looking back at the house. She was in our bedroom window, the lights turned on, illuminating her silhouette. I watched her rear back and slam her head into the glass once, then again, and again. Something dark and liquid trickling down the frame. The paramedics had to tie her down to keep her from thrashing or hurting herself. I watched as they took her away, begging them to kill her. I tried to call OEM, but I got was a message that the number had been disconnected. I drove back to where she was still in the hospital, but there was nothing left but an empty warehouse. When I picked her up, she was completely normal again, the only proof of the episode being the stitches on her forehead. It was that day I picked her up when I felt completely broken down and helpless. Then I started to hear her voice. Honey, looked over at my girlfriend, what my girlfriend had become. She was staring out of the window, smiling peacefully. What was that? She glanced at me, her smile widening. Nothing, Julian. I didn't say anything. I turned back in the room, convinced I was just losing my mind. I had to be. It would make sense, but then I heard it again. Julian, open your eyes. Honey, it's okay. Jesus Christ, Kessler. Would you take that thing off him? I think he's had enough. It's been weeks then now. We're home. We're safe. At least that's what Chelsea says. I'm trying to believe her. I know it was in my head. I know it was just whatever that device did to me. But it felt so real when it was happening. I'm terrified one day I'll wake up again in that room. I don't think if I did, I'd bounce back so quickly. My town is haunted by a witch. If she knocks on your door, you must let her in. I live in an old New England house. Legend has it that for 300 years it had been haunted by Zariel, the witch. We learn about Zariel in school grounds. Older kids teach the younger, voices low and eyes glimmering. She will knock on your door in the form of a traveler asking for a glass of water. You will know it's her because despite claiming that she's terribly thirsty, she will not touch the water you offer her. There are 5 rules you must follow when Zariel knocks on your door. You must let her in. You must be friendly at all times. You must not show that you're afraid of her. You must not let her out of your sight. You must not let her pass the first room in your house. When someone dies in a domestic accident, whispers circulate that they received a visit from Zariel and didn't follow the rules. Some claim to have met her and survived, but because she changes appearance every time, accounts are impossible to verify. Many grown-ups would deny believing in Zariel, but when entering a house in our town, one will usually find a glass and a bottle of water kept by the front door, just in case a stranger stops by. I am the skeptic, or rather I used to be until recently. Sure, Zariel scared me when I was a child. I heard someone knocking on my parents' door, would run to my room and lock myself in. Zariel never came. As I got older, I did my research on her. It turns out that a woman by the name of Zariel really lived in our town, according to historical records. She was a spinster of most ill-favored countenance, who lived alone at the edge of the woods, long suspected of being troubled by an unclean spirit. She was much disliked by the townsfolk. They complained that she continually intruded upon their property. In 1734, after Zariel had not been seen for weeks, a pious old woman went to check on her. She found Zariel's decomposing body lying in her shed, throat cut almost to the bone. Although some young men have been heard declaring they would rid the town of the foul witch, they were never prosecuted. The haunting nonsense was the result of a sad page of history. I concluded. After I married and moved into a new house with my husband, he insisted on keeping a glass and a bottle of water by the front door. I did not want to, but I figured it wasn't a matter worth fighting over. Last Friday at 3 p.m., I had to put my sons down for a nap when I heard knocking at the door. I absentmindedly opened the door to find a woman about 40 who I've never seen before. She was hiking. She was in hiking clothes. Not surprising. The area is known for its nature trails. Hi, can I help you? Hi, I'm so sorry to bother you. A stylish bob encircled her pleasant face, even with sweat perling around her forehead. She looked Polish, and I thought that maybe she must have come from a big city. May I ask you for a glass of water? My bottle is empty. I'm very thirsty. She smiled at me apologetically. A hiker asking for her a glass of water. That's it. You must let her in. Of course, please come in. Oh, that's so kind of you. Are you sure I'm not bothering you? No bother at all. She bashfully walked through the door. I held open for her. A split-second thought crossed my mind. Slammed the door in her face. I didn't, of course. Then blinked the eye. The hiker was inside my house. She hovered her by the entrance politely. I turned towards the kitchen to remember the glass and the water bottle sitting right next to me. You must not let her out of sight. Well, why not? As I poured the water, she glided from the entrance to the couch and sat down. I did not like that. She must have noticed because a flicker of guilt tightened her features. You must be friendly at all times. I responded with a bright smile, handing her the glass. That's when I noticed she had no backpack, no pouch, not even a water bottle. I took a deep breath and pushed down the panic that had been swelling up. I sat in front of her. You've been hiking? I chirped. I just did the mountain loop, she replied enthusiastically. It was so pretty. Without drinking any of it, she set the glass on her lap. It's one of my favorites, I responded. Her fingers gripped the glass. She didn't drink it. And it's such a nice day today, I continued. It was lovely, almost too hot. Her face beamed with sweat. A drop rolled from her forehead to her chin. It fell into her lap. She did not drink. My eyes snapped up to her. She was staring at me, staring at her. You must be friendly at all times. I laughed at her horrendous laugh. Yeah, I love it when it's hot. She laughed along. Inside me, the adult woman disappeared. I became that little girl who wanted to lock herself in her room again. Have you been in that area before? I asked, forcing my voice to sound even. It's my first time visiting, she responded cheerfully. Have you been living here long? I was born here, I said, then fearing I was lacking amiability, I exclaimed, wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Of course, such a lovely place, and everyone seems so nice. She shifted, her gaze shifted to a framed photo of me, and my husband and my son. What a cutie, she whispered, narrowing her frame. Revulsion twisted my stomach. Smashed the frame in her face. I thought. I didn't, of course. I sat perfectly still, pushed out a timid thank you. She turned to me with a proud smile. You know, I have a son about the same age. He's with his dad now. Unfortunately, we're divorced. But we maintain a good friendship. That's so important for a child. Oh yeah, it's so important, I stammered, taken aback. She stood up, leaving the glass on the coffee table. Well, sorry for bothering you. I'll be on my way before it gets dark. A wave of relief rushed through me. Of course, no bother at all. She trotted to the front door. I had to stifle a laugh awoken from a bad dream. I was back in the land of living. Hope you enjoy the rest of your trip. Her hand pushed down the door handle and let it back up. One last thing, she said. May I use the restroom? Cold dread enveloped me before her words reached my brain. You must not let her pass the first room of her house. I'm sorry, but the restroom's out of order. Is that so? She asked. As she breezed right back to my seat in front of me. Why? My pulse went wild. It's clogged. We had an awkward accident earlier at Cackle. Whoops, I can have a look at it if you want. I'm pretty savvy in small repairs. Oh no, you don't have to. There's a public restroom right across the street in the park. Pulling at the window, my hand trembled. It was already dark outside. That was impossible. Sunset was supposed to be hours away. She hadn't been in my house for more than a few minutes. I would love to repay your hospitality, she insisted, eyes wide and eager. My husband's about to come in from work. He will do it. You know, man. I leaned towards her, displaying the most convincing, conniving smile I could muster. They like to feel useful. She played along. I get it. Since my husband left, I'd have had to learn to do it all by myself. I admire your independence. Thank you for saying that. It means a lot. She seemed genuinely flattered. I was not doing too bad, I thought. A piercing cry rose from upstairs. Mommy! My son had woken up. He's an anxious baby at 2 years old. He only just started to sleep on his own. Whenever he wakes up and doesn't find us, he goes into a panic. I almost shot from my seat but managed to reel myself back in. Don't you want to go to him? She asked me gently. You must not let her out of her sight. That's okay. He needs to get used to it. Mommy! He had a way of sounding like something absolutely terrible was happening, which it was. Mommy! His voice broke, but he kept on screaming. What if he was actually hurt? She sat perfectly still, grinning at me. Are you sure he's okay? Her question sounded somewhat like a threat. You must not let her out of your sight. I nodded vigorously, returning him to sleep on his own. Listening to the pleas of my hurting baby was near unbearable. I reminded myself of all the people, all the children who had died in tragic circumstances. He broke his neck tripping downstairs. She choked on food. The little one drank from a bottle of bleach. They were visited by Serial, the rumors always said, and they didn't follow the rules. I've never seen a mother like you, she said. No other provocation. How about your little one? Not to raise my voice over my son's cry. Does he sleep on his own? She looked up at the mention of her child. He sleeps like an angel. My daughter, on the other hand, is like yours. She wanted to be held all the time. You have a daughter too? Yes, I do, she snapped, as if I was doubting her. My son abruptly went silent. That alarmed me even more. Why did he stop? I fiercely wanted to check on him. See? I said instead. He calmed down. You're a very interesting woman, she responded and shuffled forward. Her knees almost touched mine. I'm really enjoying getting to know you. I did not bulge, swallowing my disgust. Me too. It's nice to see a new face around here. Maybe I jumped into the abyss. Maybe we could be friends. Her eyebrows shot up, her eyes widened, and her lips parted. I would love that, she breathed. A rush of emotion flushed her cheeks. A web of red veins flared beneath her skin, then began to swell, morphing into elongated red warts. You must not show her that you're afraid of her. What do you think of the hike? I sputtered, desperate to fill the silence. It was amazingly lovely, she trilled. One of her eyes turned gray. What else do you suggest I do in the area? I held on to that question like a life raft. If you love nature, I would recommend the Nature Wife Refuge and paddleboarding on the river. Her hair vanished one by one, leaving only a few disheveled clumps on a bald head. You must not show her that you're afraid of her. A walk downtown is great for shopping. Aunt Rita's kitchen serves the best clam chowder in town. Her teeth blackened, strands of yellow saliva stretched between the upper and lower arcade. I waged war on every one of my muscles to not look away. For culture lovers, the local museum has great artifacts. One side of her face went moldy. A worm wriggled out of her ear and slid into her eye socket. I smiled hard. Now let's not to forget the Civil War battleground. A slit appeared on her throat. From side to side, dark blood came pouring out, inundating her clothes, my couch, my carpet. Her head fell backwards. The wound was spread apart like two halves of a steak, exposing her sliced off windpipe. Only a thin layer of skin kept the head from rolling away. Yet, from an absurd angle, her one eye was still set on me. My smile did not falter. You can always catch a performance at the Arts Center. The lights flickered. My personal favorite are the dance shows. All the lights went out with a pop except the overhead light. It flickered desperately. The thought of being alone in the dark with her was so terrifying my heart nearly stopped. You must not show her that you're afraid of her. I thought about my son sleeping peacefully in his crib, the sun rising on the ocean, a fluffy kitten drinking from a bowl of milk. For drinks, there's a little bar by the river. The lights went out. I opened my mouth to scream. In a blink of the eye, the lights came back on. I sucked in the scream before coming out. You must not show that you are afraid of her. She looked like a preppy 40-year-old lady hiker again. No sign of a neck wound. Her clothes were clean. So were my couch and carpet outside. The day was bright again. I allowed myself a breath of relief. Maybe this was it. I passed the test. She would be gone now. Thank you for that, she said softly. Since there's so much to do around here, maybe I should stay a few more days. My throat tightened. What a great idea. She looked around the room pensively. Do you have a guest room? I would love to stay if you have me. Despair hugged its fingers inside my insides. We don't have a guest room, unfortunately. I would love to have you stay with us. That's a shame. What if I slept on the couch? I would not want you to be uncomfortable. I don't need much. This looks perfectly comfortable. My son is a rambunctious kid, so didn't I tell you I was a mom too? Yes. You don't believe me? Yes, of course. I was losing ground. I felt energy leaving me. It almost sounds like you're making excuses not to have me. Didn't you say you want to be friends? Of course. Mommy! I had not heard him come in. My son was standing in the doorframe. He clutched his teddy bear, chubby cheeks streaked with dried up tears. He looked as just as star as I was. He must have climbed out of his toddler bed, I said, forcing cheerfulness. I held out my arms to him. Honey, come here. Instead, he directed his unsteady little feet towards her. You must not show her that you're afraid of her. Hello, little man, she exclaimed, baring her teeth at him. I was now trembling from head to toe. She stretched out her hand and worked her long, nailed fingers. My son wobbled closer to her. I wanted to scream and yank him away from her, run, but because I didn't know what the right thing to do was, I sat still, paralyzed. You must show that you are not afraid of her. Would you like to stay? Would you like me to stay here with you? She said in a cringe-worthy baby voice. No, no, say no, I yelled inside my head. My son gave her a toothless smile. The smile of pure delight only little children capable of. She widened her grin, pushed back her demonic hand further towards him. The room around me started shaking, every nerve in my body twisted. My son put his teddy bear in her outstretched hand like a friendship offering. Time stopped. Her mouth trembled, smile morphing to a sorrowful grimace. She gripped the teddy bear and brought it to her heart. Finally, she let out a long, painful breath. I'm sure your child wants his mommy to himself, she finally murmured. I'll be on my way. She looked slow. She slowly rose and set the teddy bear on the couch. It was great to have. Thank you for your kindness. She ever so lightly stroked my hand with her fingers. And then, just as swiftly as she came, she was gone. It had been 7 days since she visited. I've been watching my husband and son like a hawk, expecting them to trip, fall, get burned, or some other terrible thing. No one got hurt. I was beginning to feel normal again. But around 3 p.m. every afternoon, I feel a pang of pain on my hand, right where she touched me. Thank you for making it this far if you did. I don't have many subscribers, so I'd ask for you to please subscribe. And if you like this, please let me know and I'll make more. Thank you. Goodbye.